Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
evening.
everyone. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Today we are meeting to discuss another very important topic. What industry expects from a young engineer. I have received many feedbacks from industry professionals to mention that this is a timely, relevant topic. So without taking much of your time, let me commence the program. First, I will introduce our very experienced panel members. Engineer Dr. S.B. Vijay Korn from Industrial Training and Career Guidance Unit of Faculty of Engineering, Peradeniya University. Engineer Ranjit Gunatilaka, Deputy Chairman, Sanken Group of Companies. Engineer Nalin Jayasuriya, General Manager, Sri Lanka Telecom. Engineer Prabodh Jinasena, former Additional General Manager, Roads, Airport Design and Training of CECD. Before coming to the discussion, let me invite Professor Ranjit Disanayake, who is the Chairman of Library and Publication Committee of IESL, to deliver the introductory speech. Sir, the floor is to you.
Thank you, Tilak. Good evening, everybody. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the panel discussion on what the industry expert from the young engineer. As Tilak mentioned, that is very much timely important topic. As you look at the industry today, there are so many threats around us, such as COVID, still around us. And day by day, the technology is been changing. Then the economical condition of the Sri Lanka as well as the world. And there are so many changes happening. Then again, we have a kind of new government. Government policies are there. There are, in a way, there are restrictions on import, and the government is trying to expand the industry within the country, so that the things are so dynamic, so that the young engineer, those who are about to pass out, or those who are just pass out, there are so many other challenges also. We have more universities than what we had before. And again, another stream of coming into the market, like technology stream. Then most of the other institute, such as they produce the diploma and so forth, they also willing to come up to the engineering degree. And there are so many private universities are coming. There are foreign graduates are coming into the market. So that then we have to think about the something like demand and supply. So having all threats or but you being a young engineer, you have to think yourself what you should know, what content you should master, why you should be different from the others in order to challenge the future. But when you can think it alone. But what we thought, rather than you think it alone and find out your own goals and the future, we thought of why not we discuss with the expert like Dr. Engineer S.B. Vijay Korn is coming not only from the industry, but he has been in the academia. Engineer Ranjit Gunatilaka, he has been in the industry for a longer time. Prabodh Jinasena also the same. He has been once in the industry and academia. Then the general manager is Neil. He has been in the IT sector, so covering the different areas of engineering. We thought of listen to them and see how they look at this crisis or the future challenges that young engineers has, so that you can find out your pathway for the future. who you should be. For that, I think this is the golden opportunity. Very prominent speakers. So I wish you all the best for the program. I would like to hand over the control to the Tilak, Engineer Tilak Jayatunga. Thank you, Tilak. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. So it is a very good introduction indeed. So we are straight away going to the panel discussion. This will be the first round of the discussion. So each panel member will be given 6 minutes time to talk about this subject. So first of all, let me ask from Mr. Ranjit Gunatilaka, who is the Deputy Chairman of Sanken Group. Mr. Ranjit, you are no doubt you are a high-ranked professional of a leading organization in the construction field of Sri Lanka. So are you satisfied with the output of young engineers who are produced by local universities? And how do you compare this situation, current situation, with your days? Can you please explain us, Mr. Ranjit? Mr. Gunatilaka, are you there? So let me talk to Mr. Nalin Jayasuriya then. I think there is a technical issue with the mic. So let me talk to Mr. Nalin Jayasuriya. Mr. Nalin, you are the General Manager of Telecom. Of course, you are representing telecom and IT sector, which is considered as one of the biggest industry in Sri Lanka. As we know, many engineers and technical officers have been recruited annually. So what are your selection criteria when you are selecting, when you are considering to recruit young engineers? Could you please elaborate us, Mr. Nalin?
Thank you, Mr. Tilak. Once we consider telco and IT industry, and especially the telco industry, presently we are recruiting around 30 to 40 engineers each year for our company. That's the number vary based on the number of vacancies each year. But we, as a national telecom service provider, we always try to provide give more opportunities to our young engineers. So before moving to the criteria, I'll just show you what are the areas basically we are recruiting, right, for what the engineers are deploying. So basically we deploy engineers in operation and maintenance, so mainly covering the IT platforms and network, and new product and service development engineers, business solution development engineers, project engineers, and the regional managers, and planning engineers covering IT, network planning, and some level of civil planning. Service fulfillment assurance engineers, so basically it's related with our network side, and process engineering, so who are basically implementing the business process and identify IT configuration, and quality management engineers, basically they are responsible for manage the quality level of materials and the service, and training center engineers, because we are presently having 3 training centers. So we need the engineers for training centers to conduct our own trainings for our internal staff, as well as we are conducting training courses for the outsiders. So when we consider your question, right, so you can see it's a cross sections of work, right? A certain level of engineering capabilities, and also the managerial capabilities, and some teaching capability likewise. So basically we once we recruit in, we align with the mainly align with the ISL. So the ISL engineering courses which are recognized by ISL, we basically consider for our recruitment. So then we consider the MISL, and the age limit is 30 years. So why we consider the ISL? Because each and every engineer need to get their charter to proceed the next promotion. So therefore, if you are not recruited person from not engineering, which is not recognized by ISL, so there is issue. Therefore, we always align with the ISL, not only the engineering category, even in accounting and marketing also, we basically align with the respective professional bodies. So it's easy for us. Usually, once we apply for provide vacancies, usually it's 1,200 application. We are 200 plus application we are receiving. So, but once we consider the category of ISL recognized engineering courses, it's mainly around 300 to 400. So after that, we basically handling certain selection examinations. So that is covering the application of engineering knowledge to identify whether they are capable of apply the knowledge what they are get. Also, we consider the IQ and the managerial capability, because more certain area early you have seen that we are recruiting engineers or we deployed engineers for our regional managers. So the other thing is we expecting some learning culture in our organization, because not other than the other industries, telcos and IT basically very fast moving areas. So the technical knowledge need to be changed, and the people who have to always learning, otherwise they can't survive in the industry. So therefore, at the recruitment level, we check whether that particular engineers are capable of learning and apply the relevant knowledge. Once we consider engineering, it is not possible only to have with the engineering knowledge, because they should have some soft skill as well, right? So these are certain soft skills we are basically consider, because we come across there are some engineers, they are very sound in technical areas, but once they assign certain jobs, they are basically struggling to provide the expected outcome. So mainly because there are certain areas lacking with their soft skills. They are not good in organizing, nor they are not good in communicate with the other levels. So in that case, we require to check their soft skills as well during the recruitment. So basically, during the interview process, we check these skills. And other thing is, other than the skills, we check their attitudes. So how positive they are to the working culture, right? Because there are some cases, if they have some positive attitude or positive thinking, it's very easy for them to train and train their skills. This company is moving fastly, right? Telcos, if you consider the 5 years back, it is not the same presently. So the people have to change. People have to always take the challenge. So the only these type of people can survive in the industry. So the young engineers need to ready with that particular the capability. Otherwise, they can't survive in the industry. So that is these are the basic criteria we are considering. And also we expect it at the initial stage, the engineers are a little bit committed, because young engineers, they are less family commitments. So we expect they have to work a little bit hard at initial years to capture that particular gap from the academic to the practitioner. So these are the part we are basically worried about.
Yeah.
Consider.
Yeah. Mr. Nalin, I just wanted to, I just captured 2 points from your this thing. One is you are talking about learning culture, which is adopted in your company. And also you are doing attitude checking when you are recruiting. So can you give us maybe two examples for those two cases and elaborate these 2 points? How do you adapt this one in your telecom industry?
So recruitment level position, we are at because we basically expecting the engineers from just pass out from the university. So we are not expecting them to go for a very low level or nut and bolt level, the latest technology, but they should have some certain idea about the latest technology. They should know what is actually happening in the industry. So that level we are testing during the examination. So other thing is what you ask, the attitude. It's in my point of view, it's the most important part, because people have to positively take the challenges. So interview period, we can check whether they are ready to get that type of case, rather than keeping only the engineering part, or rather than because this may be the, other than their industrial training, this may be the first time they are come to the industry. So in that case, they have to adapt to the industry requirements, right? So that part we are basically testing during the interviews.
I hope you can elaborate that part in your second session, giving some examples of how do you check the attitude.
Sure.
Basically, it is very important for us to know. I think Mr. Ranjit Gunatilak is now there. His mic is now working because there was a technical issue. Now, let me ask Mr. Ranjit Gunatilak once again, since you are a very high-ranked professional in the industry, and your organization is represent the construction field. Are you satisfied with the output of young engineers who are produced by local universities these days? And how do you compare your days with the current situation? Mr. Ranjit, if you could explain us.
Firstly, I may apologize getting late in joining you all.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Mr. Ranjit. We very, very well appreciate your presence here.
Just to answer very direct question, direct answer. Yes, we are very much satisfied with the young engineers who are joining in their theoretical knowledge. But how their management skills, I think we got to do a bit training either at the university level or at their secondary education level, especially how to take the responsibilities and how to share the teamwork. This is nothing to do with the academic situation within the 4 years of university. But I don't want to compare this with our days, because our days the society respected us much better, because from the whole country there are only about 150, 125 engineers who are put out, whereas now it is about 1,000. So that the social recognition that time was better. So we had a bit of a privilege and opportunity to demand anything and get the work also demand. Nowadays, not that. So they are very unfortunate, but their theoretical knowledge and what to expect from universities is good.
So you mean to say you are satisfied with theoretical knowledge, but with the managerial level, you are not satisfied. But you know what reasons are there behind. Yeah, that's what you are trying to say, right? So
yes, correct.
Yeah. So why I asked you to compare with your days, the current engineer, is because we know that we had many eminent and many very professional engineers those days, and they were doing a lot of innovations. They were doing a lot of cultural change to the industry. So now, I mean, it is not to the engineering field, but in many fields, we see there is a lagging in this area. Like we can't see figures. We can't see personalities of coming out, like giving this kind of examples.
Tilak, if I say, how do I say this only in comparison to the engineers? I don't blame the engineers, but according to the society, today engineers are exposed for many fields. Even if they pass out as graduate engineers, they are exposed to many fields. So that in our days, your question was, in our days, if you see engineers, now I should say 90% of them are married to their job. Okay, but these days there could be, but definitely not 90%, right? They have various other interests once they are put on the job. That we can see, I should say to a certain extent within our organization or within the chamber, all the places. So I don't blame them, because Our days, we didn't have television to see in the evening. Now they have television to see, they have Facebooks, there are a lot of other extra engineering things to do, so that you should not blame them. But even the developed countries, this is a problem today. So we have to somehow or other get the young engineers to the correct track, and it's possible.
Yes, of course, it is not to blame, but to learn from your days. I am very interested to hear that engineers can marry to the job. Would you like to explain, elaborate that more, how one engineer can marry to the job?
No, normally they say those who are in the military forces, they are married to the job. Because once you come, then you don't tell your wife, when are you going to get back or whatever, because you are married to the job. But in the engineers also, those days I know very well, there was no morning or evening or night for them. They were totally on the job. And the second thing is, I see, because as young engineers, I went to Kaudulla. The engineer is manning total the Kaudulla Lake and that wind area, total area, one engineer. And he is below 30 years. But today, I don't know whether the young engineers is given such a big responsibility. Because they are not giving, because it is scattered responsibility. So the engineers have, whether it is our days or these days, same knowledge, same capability. So they should be given more responsibility. Then they are all right.
Yes, yes. I think it's a very good explanation. And young engineers can take a lot of learnings out of this. Thank you very much, Mr. Anjit. So let me talk to Mr. Prabodha Jinasena. Mr. Prabodha Jinasena, you have a vast experience in the industry, especially when you were working for CECB, and currently you are leading the training and development of a university, and you have a vast experience definitely in the industry. How do you improve the skills of young engineers by giving this industrial training? Because as Mr. Anjit also mentioned, he's very satisfied with the theoretical knowledge, but he's not satisfied with the managerial skills. So for that context, it is very important to give a good industrial training, I believe. How you can explain, Mr. Prabodha Jinasena, this regarding this industrial training?
Yeah, Tilak, first of all, I would like to thank the library committee for inviting me for the discussion. And this very important topic. Your question is how you can change, you can train engineers to do effective work in the industry, right? Now, the first thing I would like to tell you is that anybody, this not only for engineers, everybody, you have to decide what your capability is. Now, what is the direction you are going to take? Now, if you look at this diagram, you see what you know, what you can, what you like. So the common area is should be your interest. So when you enter the university, you have to have your path, right? Which way you are going to drive. That is the most important thing. Now, I generally go to Motto University for the first year. I do a lecture on their field selection. I generally ask a question, have you decided your field before coming to the university? And most of the students say no. So this is the point where you have to fix yourself, right? So you have to decide which path, which direction you are going to go. So when they come to the final or third year, fourth year, they should know what is the field, what is the area, what is the direction they are going to take. That part is missing in most of the students. So that is why I say you decide on your direction. If you work in a section which you don't like, you don't perform well. So that is the natural thing. So you decide. Now I decided to be a civil engineer right at the start in my university education level. So I went in that way. So I wanted to be in some field. So I went to that field and performed. So this is the point. This is the area where the young engineer should target, focus. So decide, talk to yourself and decide what is the route you are going to take, what is the area I'm going to have more knowledge and you can excel in that area. So that is my first message to the young engineers and engineers in the universities or the undergraduates in the universities. Can we have the second one? Second slide, please. Right. Now, what is missing in most of the engineers? The commitment. They are not committed, dedicated. So you have to, once you concentrate on your direction, you must be committed. You must take responsibilities. This is very minimum in young generation. You don't take responsibilities. You must take the responsibility. And if somebody says, can you take this? Can you do this? You must have confidence and you must have the guts to say, yes, I can do it. Take the responsibility and you see through the end. Then the confidence. You must have the confidence to do it. So if you have decided your direction, you will have confidence. Otherwise, you will not have confidence. Now, I will tell you one example, responsibility. Now, one of the leading industry experts very recently, he has recruited some young engineers just passed out of the university, and they were assigned to a site in Colombo. They came 1 week, or they reported 1 week. After that, they got lost. So then he's asking, what can we do? So young engineers are not taking the responsibility. They are not responsible. They don't commit. They are not dedicated to the work. So these things, young engineers, even in the university or passed out graduates, should develop commitment. You have to commit yourself to the work. Then you must take the responsibilities. Then you must have confidence to do work or the assignments you are given to you. Then you have to be creative. So creativity, it's something very important in the field of engineering, because if you do something the same way you do, you will get the same result. You have to do something differently to get different result. So creativity comes there. So creativity means basically you go out of the way and do things, right? So there are a lot of opportunities in the industry for you to go out of the way and show your colors. Next, please. Now, these are the things which I wanted to stress on the young engineers, the soft skills, which was spoken by Engineer Nalin also, leadership, communication, interpersonal skills, social skills, because engineers are doing a social service. Whatever we do, whatever we produce will be used by the general public, the mankind. So we are in a social service. So we have a responsibility towards the society. So we have to know that, and you have to work with that. Then the soft skill part is basically, with most of the engineers is missing. So we have to develop that. You have to work with the people. You have to know the heartbeat of the general public when you are practicing engineering in the field. Then soft skill will support your hard skills. That is the theoretical knowledge will be supported by soft skills, right? So you have to be very careful. When you are dealing with people, dealing with general public, you have to develop your interpersonal skills. Next. Now, engineering is creativity. So anything comes out in engineering is a creativeness in engineering, creativeness in the technology. So positive thinking makes the way of creativity. So engineers, undergraduates, those who are about to come into the industry should be creative. So they have to do something different. Next, please. And the other thing is, look beyond the horizon. My message to the young engineers is look for wider horizon and beyond the horizon, right? Okay.
So I think, Mr. Prabodha, you are explaining very well on certain areas of this industrial training, how they can develop their capabilities. And one thing you mentioned, where young engineers, they are not taking responsibility compared to previous days, and also the creativity part also very important. Why this is happening in this way? Like, do you think that what root cause are really affected to uh, uh, make young engineers in this way, as per your experience? Yes.
Yeah, what I think is they are not so serious. They are not taking the responsibility. They are not very concerned about the work.
Is it only the young
Maybe,
engineers, or is it as a nation we are not serious? So I mean, it is
well,
only a part of yeah. It's a national topic if you are going to talk that, but at least we have to talk about engineers. Yes. How do we develop this is it will be the next phase of our discussion.
so
But
Tilak, the thing is,
yeah,
why these people are not serious? Why don't they take responsibilities?
yeah, that's my question.
That is the issue we have to tackle. So it is coming from your childhood. It is not it is built into your system. It is coming from the childhood. If your parents are uh, working like that, you will become responsible person. So it is also some part is there from the childhood also. We can't completely convert a man into a very 100% creative person. So on his own, we can't teach them to be creative. On your own, you have to develop that skill. That is my idea, because the commitment, dedication is the most important thing. If you are given
Yeah,
any responsibility, take up the responsibility. Now the other thing is, as I said in the beginning, you must know your capacity, you must know your knowledge, you must know your direction. If you can't do any work given to you by the superior, you straight away say, sir, I am not capable in this, I can't do this. Be open. I mean, otherwise, if you take the responsibility, everything, if you can't deliver, I mean, you become blacklisted, right?
yeah, sure.
So you have to take the responsibility, know your capacity, and take up challenges.
Yeah. Let me talk to Dr. S.B. Vijayakon. Actually, Dr. represent industrial training and career guidance unit in Peradeniya University, as well as he has a vast experience in the industry. So, Doctor, you are part of developing curriculum of an engineering degree programs, and what dynamics you are considered, because in the industry it is very dynamic. When you come to the industry, there are a lot of dynamics are there. So industry keep on changing. So when you are preparing your curriculum, what aspects do you consider, especially for engineering degree program? Dr. Vijayakon? Dr. Vijayakon, are you there?
Your mic is mute.
Dr.
Yeah,
Vijayakon,
sorry. Okay.
yeah.
Right, that's right.
Yes.
Thank you, Tilak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, thank you for the opportunity given to me. I thank IESL as well for this important discussion. Now, before getting to the answer the question, I think the curriculum development taken place so far in these engineering courses, undergraduate courses. In fact, I think Engineer Gunatilak will agree with me. I think when we were in the universities, we have about 95% engineering content courses, and maybe on the final year we had this general engineering where they talk about labor laws and something like that. But that has been there till about 19, maybe latter part of 70s. And then at that time, the training is not compulsory. I think if you want, you can do it. That's it. I did my first year training for 5 rupees a day. So this is voluntary work. You can, if you want, you can go and work. But later the things have developed in maybe early, maybe somewhere in 2003 in Peradeniya, they have switched on to this, the course unit system. And then maybe somewhere in 1978 or somewhere, they made this industrial training compulsory. So I think that is they feel that this part is very important, especially those who are going to the industry. And then now with the curriculum, the course unit system, I think in most of the engineering programs are running now. And this is this industrial training, they have made it 24 weeks compulsory. And then now the further development is that has become a 6-credit course unit, and it's a compulsory course. Everybody who has completed got maybe a average for a first class, but still this component is not completed. I think probably he will not get his degree. So we have developed these curriculums. I'm specifically taking examples from Peradeniya engineering faculty because where they are working. And again, when it comes to now, I think the engineering content is dropped to about 60 to 70%, and we have loaded with technical electives as well as general electives. So general electives, we are talking management, as well as maybe we teach even arts, music, drama, that kind of things also, and then we have embedded into the curriculum. And the only issue is I very well take Engineer Gunatilaka's point, and therefore I think if you look at the engineering faculty, say engineering content of an undergraduate degree, I think there are limitations to bring the engineering content further down. So even now there are criticisms in one side because you have reduced the content of engineering, and some maybe industry said you need to. So I think there should strike a balance between those two. So therefore, the industrial training can cover part of this the gap. But and then what we are doing here is in Peradeniya now is we are teaching some management courses for the students, and then plus we give them industrial training so that they will have hands-on experience. So we are trying to maximize the opportunity and given the students to improve their skills on these areas. So and that is how the program is running at. So I think even if the demand is so, I think we need to go for further revision of this curricula and then introduce some more courses. Especially we need to discuss this with industry. And I think in most of the faculties now they have industry liaison committees. They meet I think frequently, and then they listen to the industry, and then we change this curricula, and then we try to develop these the programs, and then finally to have a better products for the industry, and then best fit products for the industry. So this is what aiming at. I think in that sense, faculty alone or the university alone, I don't think we can do it. So we have to the industry, the IESL and the faculty will have to continue this kind of programs, the discussions, the webinars, maybe the consultative discussions, and then I think we need to go in that line. So that is what I suggest for your answer, for your question. And the other one is something coming from Prabodh. Now what happened is we had the opportunity to select the field what we want at that time, but now this opportunity is not for the current students because of the limitations of the departments and the competition. I think we select them, especially in Peradeniya, we have a system of streaming after first year, but now we have decided to do it after first semester. So I think based on the first year, the marks or the GPA or whatever, and then we stream them. So there is a competition. So then, for example, we may put some student into a stream where he does not like it, but there is some problem there. And also I think these attitudes and all these things, what Prabodha mentioned is basically is a problem of the society, because everybody will agree that still this most of these undergraduates still, I think, the parent driven, about 80% or 90%, because that is also another serious factor. So we need to consider all these things and then move forward. I mean, that's what and also I'm very happy when the direct answer from engineer Gunatilaka, that he said he has no problem with the engineering content of these courses. So that means we are very happy, and the message is that I think we need to think of for the other skills management and soft skills to be improved in this curriculum. So that is what we should think of. Tilak?
Yeah, I think
are you happy with this explanation?
Yeah, I'm very happy, but I have another question to ask from you. How is the support of the industry for these industry collaboration programs which you have implemented? I know many engineering universities, they are working on this for research and development. So do you get enough support for industry collaboration?
Actually, I said when it comes to industrial training, I think it's excellent. So that is because I have been involved in this industrial training since 1997 in Faculty of Engineering, Peradeniya. Maybe a few years I was working in the industry. But I think, we send about 850 students per year for training for the industry in various disciplines. And when it takes civil, we are sending about 300, because we send these students for 2 slots. We send 2 slots, 12 months slots, rather 3 month slots. So I think we get enough support, and that is why we have been able to manage to put these students into the industry. So sending 850, and maybe other universities may be much more than that. And there's a huge demand and competition, but still, I think we have a very good relation or maybe communication with the industry. And in some fields, we have some problems, few problems, but I think still we are still managing. I don't know, maybe the increase of engineering degree programs and maybe new universities coming up, and then of course that will be a serious problem in time to come, I think. But still, I think not only engineering undergraduate, there will be NDT, TTI, and maybe a technology stream. Everybody is coming to the stream, the industry. So I think we need to have a separate discussion on this industrial training, because even now we have realized and understood that the industrial training component for engineering undergraduates are very important. So therefore we should not dilute it, and we should somehow take them and then put them in maybe
keep on moving.
Keep on moving to keep the quality of the engineering degrees.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, sir. So now we are coming to the second round of the discussion. Actually, in this round, we are trying to more focus on solutions. Solutions with regard to curriculum, solution with regard to maybe industrial training or any other aspect, development of soft skills, or anything we can discuss, especially for engineering degree programs and also for young engineers. So let me ask from Engineer Ranjit Gunatilaka. So what would be your feedback to all engineering universities with respect to improvements? Basically, because we know that you are talking about one side 100% satisfied with the theoretical knowledge, but you want them to be improved in managerial aspects. So how do you propose engineering universities to adjust themselves, and rather we can talk about industrial training also from industry companies, from companies' point of view. We also have a responsibility. But to universities, what message do you give?
Thank you, Tilak. I got some memories and good points from Professor SB as well as Prabodha. all what we discussed and what we feed back to the universities, how we should improve. Finally, this product, when I say the product, it's the engineer, how to use it in the society. The same way, how the engineer is treated, how the engineer is benefited, that is their life from the society. What I see is we have to do little corrections, not only at the university level, but some should go even prior to the university education, at least the secondary education. We all know, because we all engineers, we all know as 95% of us, when we were good in mathematics, we should have straight away gone to maths, finally ended up in engineering. I don't know how many very good people in maths gone to do medicine. I don't know how many very good people in maths gone to other fields. But of course, definitely, with the very high knowledge of people of mathematics, has selected these engineering degrees. The issue, what I'm trying to convince you, sometimes once these, whether they are girls or boys, once they select their stream, they should be given not once they come to the university. At the secondary education level, what is civil engineering? What is electrical engineering? What is IT? What is mechanical engineering? Sometimes people do mechanical engineering till they get the appointment, or sometimes when they even go to the field, they don't know whether that is the mechanical engineering or not. So this situation, first we must get it from the secondary education level. And there are students very unfortunate. There are engineers who has joined, you have done civil engineering, and who has joined the building sector. But some of these people can't, go on a high-rise building because they have certain medical, I don't say it's a defect, but it's something that by birth. But they were not told what is civil engineering, this is what you got to face. But it's not common. It's once, but at least then they know, okay, I must do electrical engineering because they are all very good in mathematics. That's what I see. But so that they should be briefed this. Second is, at this moment, though the officers say that we industry join them and give a good industrial training, but I have not come across, since Tilak you want some solution, a very good interactive workshops between the industry and the university. This is very important, so that definitely, since we are product of all these universities, we don't mind spending one day and go to the locations, whether it's Moratuwa or Ruhuna or Peradeniya, and interact with these students and say, this is what you get in the field, this is what the responsibilities, this is what the where you are pushed to do it. So that we will do that very happily. And in return, we expect from these students, once they become engineers, to do a big service to the industry as well as to the society. So I think this interactive situation is very good. And I think Professor mentioned, is parent-driven engineers society. It's correct. But who are these parents? Isn't it you and me? These parents are we. So why it has happened? Because the way that our parents, how they put us into the education and how we have put our children into the education may be different, because we had 30 years of this uncertainty when you get out from the home, whether you come. So naturally, because of the love for the children, we would have done that. But now it is high time to reverse. Because when we came out from our home, I don't know whether it is common to you all, when I came out from home 8 o'clock, till I get back till 8 o'clock in the evening, my parents didn't know that where I am going, what I am doing.
Yes.
Because they didn't have a hand phone given to me, or they didn't have a hand phone to check that. But they had confidence that we can go, whether it's a bike or walk or bicycle, or we can go and come back. Today, some of these graduates, I don't know whether I should say it, when they come for interview, their parents also come into the interview board. Then I have faced this. I said, no, we want to interview only the engineer. So to that extent, parent driven. But the civil engineer or the mechanical engineer, when I say if they are married to work, that is very important. Then also, I should take a little time and explain you how they should be, they should be given or consider in their curriculum. It's very difficult because we don't know which engineer going to be I'm especially talking about civil engineering, which engineer going to be the design engineer or which engineer going to be a field civil engineer, right? Because, but 80–90% of these civil people in the civil engineering field or even the other field, they are not going to be design engineers, right? But then for that people, at one point we should, if we can select them, we should be given much better training. How do you face the issues, especially more than the engineering? As Professor said, we had a lot of general engineering items. In those general engineering items, we did the even agriculture engineering, public health, like, those are general engineering items. We had a overall knowledge. So, but today, I think for engineers, if we can give some legal background, knowledge in law, whether it is criminal law, corporate law, civil law, that will definitely help these engineers to manage in the society, because they are supposed to always the best or the cream of the country. But if they don't know, basic law, even a simple policeman, when you are, with all respect to the police, I am telling sometimes they will come to the site and for a minor thing, they will arrest a project manager. But the project manager should be able to say whether such a police person can enter the premises of the site, but no. So that what I say is in our, not at least as a extra item, or we must have, I don't know, just with a workshop we can put all that, but all engineers should be given extra education on this special knowledge, how to face in the society. Okay, Tilak.
Yeah, I think very good solutions. If many of our, I believe many of our university academia is listening to this webinar, it will be a very good message for them to have interactive workshops and to change this parent-driven education system, and also general engineering items to be included to curriculum and extra education to be given. So those are very important concepts for developing our education system. So let me go to Engineer Nalin Jayasurya.
Tilak, I
Yes.
should just give me a one sentence.
Yeah.
Most important thing, what I personally feel,
Yes.
the engineers coming out from the university and once they are in the practice, they should have the duty to serve this country honestly and sincerely to your job, and to be 100% loyal to your company. If you can inculcate this with all these engineers, we are very fortunate. Thank you.
Yeah, what you are proposing actually are cultural improvements, engineering culture to be improved. That is a very important subject, yes. Thank you, Mr. Anjit. Thank you very much for your good ideas. So, Engineer Nalin Jayasuriya, from industry point of view, how do you plan to improve knowledge and skills of young engineers? Because I know that telecom, they are launching many programs to improve their soft skills as well as their engineering knowledge. So, so could you explain, giving some examples to the audience, what kind of programs have you launched to improve the knowledge and skills of engineers in telecom?
Yes, Mr. Tilak. Basically, the certain areas of technical, so slides. Special technical areas training we are conducting to provide the knowledge for the young engineers, because we know that once they just passed out from universities, they cannot have this type of depth knowledge to maintain the certain platforms. So in such a situation, we are providing the required technical knowledge for them. And also the other part related with the project management training we are providing, because project management, most of the items in our area deliver as a projects. So the basic knowledge of project management is a must for young engineers. So therefore, we are providing project management training. So we link with the PIM local chapter and continuously providing project management training to improve the project management skills and knowledge. And the other area, basically, as many discussed, that's the lacking of the managerial skills. We also observe the very similar thing, right? So there are few engineers actually completed CIMA, but they are not all. So therefore, we are conducting a general management skill training to improve their skills, especially from the beginning of their career. So because whatever the areas in not only the telcos, not only the IT, even in other civil, the managerial skill is important. There are areas that because the area, if you are assigned engineer for a regional level, so more managerial skills we are expecting from them. So therefore, we conduct general management skill training continuously to improve the managerial skills, so polish their managerial skills. And we provide opportunities to them to go to higher studies, master's studies. So the company provide that opportunity, as well as once they achieve that, so we provide certain allowances. Also, not only the higher studies, the areas what their expertise. So we provide them to go to the certified engineering positions like ITIL, Cisco, those areas. We are provide that opportunity. And certain areas, we are providing the foreign training, so that basically not only the technical skills with the foreign training, so they can get more exposure for the other countries, how they are working there, so working cultures. So that also provide the technical area as well as their soft skills. And the encourage to acquire professional qualification, so especially because it's already in our SRPS level, so they have to complete their charter. So the charter position, as well as once they complete their charter, we are providing certain allowances, and the grade promotion also align with this professional qualification. And the opportunities to cross-functional work, because we are proud that we are engineers, as well as we should honor to the profession as well, because not only the engineers working in the environment, there are some HR people working there, there are accountants, there are marketeers working there. So we have to honor them and get the maximum out of them. So that type of cross-functional capabilities we are improving with the working environment, as well as to work with their subordinate works like technical officers or technicians. So that also the required to improve their interpersonal skills. So
yeah, I think it is very interesting, these cross-functional movements, because I know that you are also, although you are an engineer, you were working as a general manager HR in telecom, and you are now in a different field. So basically, cross-functional movements are very important when we improving soft skills as well as managerial skills of engineers, isn't it?
Yeah, because otherwise, for example, if you are working in one project, right? So there are the legal people are working there for the contract management. There are engineers working there. There are some IT people working there. So if you are not honor to each other, so then there are a lot of conflicts. We can't deliver the required output. So therefore, we have to understand other professions, and we have to while we are working with them, we have to understand them and we have to honor them, and so then automatically others also honor to us. So that's why in our environment, there are engineers working in the corporate strategy. There are engineers working in the procurement level. There are engineers working in the HR. Likewise, we provide that opportunity to work in other areas. So then they can improve their soft skills. And while they are working with that, so automatically their interpersonal skills also improving.
Thank you, Nalin. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Prabodh Jinasen, Engineer Prabodh Jinasen, now we know that we have many stakeholders for this topic, like, we have students from one side, and on the other hand, young engineers, and as well as university academia, and then industry, matured people are there. So many stakeholders are there. So what is your advice to the industry for developing a young engineer, especially during the industrial training program? Because we know that there are sometimes we are getting some complaints, and industrial training is not arranged in such a way that I heard from the many academia that it is confined to one area. They are not given different field opportunity to work in different areas. So likewise, there are many complaints coming. So what is your advice to the industry for developing skills of young engineers?
Yes, Tilak, before that, of course, I would like to talk about something in between. I mean, between in sense, we'll have this later. We'll have this later.
Yeah.
We'll have the slide later. Right. During their academic studies, of course, they will have 6 months of industrial training. Industrial training is mainly for them to get the engineering applications, to see them, for them to see how these theories are applied, how the work activities are arranged, and kind of thing. Before going for training, of course, they should be given some sort of knowledge about the machines, the construction technologies, and the applications. If you can arrange something like like a subject, or starting the training, of course, they can have sort of induction program, 1 week, 2 week induction program to familiarize them with the industry applications. I don't think it is effectively happening. It is happening to some extent, but it is not very effective. So that is one way for them to get acquainted with some work, what is happening in the field. When you come to the industry, of course, industry also, industry organizations are spending millions of money on trainees. Most of the organizations, I know Sanken is spending a lot of money on trainees, right? Not only Sanken, even other organizations. So they are, but what I see lacking there is we don't have a structured training programs for trainees. That is missing because the liaison between the university and the industry should be improved. And we have to formulate some kind of program for the trainees when they are in the industry, and rotation of work and kind of thing. It is not properly happening because of the, industry also, they also, the industry person are also busy with the work, and maybe they don't have time to spend with the trainees. But there should be a mechanism to be formulated. Industry university liaison interaction should be improved, and industry should be given some guidance for what to be done, what not to be done, and what are the things to be covered, and kind of thing. That kind of thing should be arranged. Otherwise, they are just blind. I mean, they are put to a site and they are supervising. Their site engineer gives some work and they are supervising certain things, and it is not proper from my point of view. So we'll have to organize it properly and organize it in a systematical manner so that this industrial training will be very effective and useful. That there are certain areas you have to improve a lot. That is one thing. Then the other message I want to give to the trainees, now, as I said earlier, your commitment, your dedication and your responsibility. Now, you have to work. Now, if you work during the training period well, you have definitely employment opportunity. Definitely you have employment opportunity. When you go there, when you pass out, and they will definitely take you. That you have to make some impression in the supervisors that you are dedicated, you can do something, you are a creative person. You have to show that during the industrial training period. If you can show that, you have always opportunity in the industry. That has happened. I have seen it. I have seen people, industries calling them, and even before passing out, they are calling and getting them to work. That kind of thing is happening in the industry. So the other thing is, now you have to impress them. You have to show them that you are committed to work. And if you have created that feeling in the minds of the management of the organization, I mean, you have a long way to go, right? We'll have this slide now. You go to the boss, you are working in an industry, you go to the boss and ask, sir, I am going to resign from my job. So there can be two answers. First answer is, okay, thanks. Thank you for your services. What is the next answer? Oh, why? What is the problem? So what is the meaning of the first answer? That means you better go. You don't need to this company anymore. What is the answer to the second problem? Second question. Your service is needed to this company. We can't leave you go, right? Let you go. So be a person where the answer should be the second one. So you have to make some impression in the organization when you are working, when you are in training, so that you are a wanted person to the industry. You are wanted. Then you have a good future, good perks, and industry also looking at your performance, and then they will give you promotions, they will give you perks. So they value your service, they look at your work, they evaluate your work. So it should be the second answer you have to target. Shall we go to the next one? I would like to quote one thing, one quotation from Dr. Abdul Kalam. If you salute your duty, you need not salute anybody. But if you pollute your duty, you have to salute everybody. Thank you, Tilak.
Yeah. Without polluting your duty, you have to work. That's what your message is. Dr. Vijay Kon, we are coming to you finally, because you represent both industry and as well as university. So it is understood that there should be some kind of a curriculum change is required, updating timely in par with the development of the industry. According to your opinion, how an engineering university can implement a mechanism to update the curriculum? Basically by getting continuous feedback from the industry, because this will not only to Peradeniya University, it will be useful to all other engineering universities in the country.
Thank you, Tilak. It's a very difficult question, but anyway, I'll try my best to answer this. I'm not the authority to decide on curriculum changes with my, okay. So I think in my previous session, I have explained to you all that how this engineering curriculum has been developed so far. And then if you now, I think even faculty is also now running this course unit system for maybe about a decade or more sometimes. In fact, the faculty is also maybe thinking that we need to have another revision, and also some maybe working on that. And so in order to fuel that, I think we should take this as a start, and then we should, as engineer Gunatilaka mentioned, I think we should have more industry ISL industry university lesson activities, and then we want to get the pulses of the industry, what area we need to develop, and what are the other additional, what are the new courses to be developed, and then how we can revise the curricula and things like that. So I think this forum can be the starting point for that, and then we can start doing meeting the arrange university and industry the lesson activities, and then from that point onwards, so that we can listen to the industry, and then accordingly. And also I think we need to look at the undergraduate as well. We have discussed on our side of the story up to now, but I think some of the feedbacks I got, I have all my due respect to the industry organizations, and then some of the comments coming from the students also, they say they have been when they go for training, or even when they recruit at the starting level, they say they have not been guided, and they have not been given any work, and they were underutilized and maybe underpaid as well sometimes. So, and then no training opportunities, or maybe no further development activities, and that kind of responses also have reached. And I'm saying I think this is not happening for major companies. I think they are very well doing it. That's what at the beginning I said is excellent, the training arrangements and things like that. But in some level, because we are not in a position to place our students for training for the maybe top quality companies, that's not possible, because they can't absorb all this. So therefore we have to put these people for various level companies, and then they have these aspects as well. So I think this is one side, the theory X and theory Y is there. So I think maybe on the industry they say these people are to be improved, and the attitude is not good, responsibility is not taking. And also I think the two sides of the story, two sides of the coin. So we need to get all these things. In fact, I suggest Tilak to organize this forum as early as possible, and then we must get some undergraduate also into this, so that we can listen to them direct as well. And then point taken. I think we need to, we are producing products, engineers. I think the products are very good, core is very good, but only problem is the wrapping and maybe the container we have to improve. I think that's what I feel. So we can do that. It's not, if the product is good, you may not be able to market because of the wrap or maybe the label. So I think problem is not that difficult. So I think we can get together, and then we can do that very well, I suppose. So therefore I once again suggest you to organize through Professor Ranjit Disanayake. I think you can organize these forums, and then we have to continue this. In fact, having this ISL lesson committee is one of the objectives is this, but I don't know, it is happening, these things. So this is the purpose of having this ISL lesson committee, where the industry people as well as the university head of the departments and everybody comes and meet every 3 months or whatever. So I think that's the way to go. Tila,
I think,
you are happy with that?
Yeah, I think Mr. Ranjit also was.
One thing, Tilak. Now, the other, we need all this respect to everyone. I think we need to understand that when you produce someone, an engineer, I think, and if you are trying to put him to an organization, maybe a government organization, wherever, but you have to understand that he will not fit in 100%. So there will be definitely there is a gap. So what we are now talking is how we should, if the gap is 100%, of course, I think there is a problem. So, but now with the discussions today, we got all these eminent industry people, their views and all. I think the gap is maybe very small, maybe 10 to 20%. So that we can be treated so very easily. So we have to get together and then do it. Otherwise, if you work with compartments and then blame each other, I think this exercise will not be fruitful. So I think we are having very good communication, very good discussions. with the industry and the university and the ISL, I think we can continue these things. And we in the sense for all the faculties and everyone, I'm suggesting this. Thank you.
Yeah, I think thank you very much, and I'm happily I'm happy to say that we want to take that challenge and then arrange this kind of feedback forums, especially with universities and also industry, and every 3 months maybe, or every certain intervals we have to consider this kind of activities. Yes.
And only thing, Tilak, we have to walk the talk. I mean, this committee's objective should be walk the talk.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just talk the walk is not going to work. It will be a waste of everyone's time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are coming to the end of the discussion, but we have another session that is question and answer session. I would like to invite all participants to either to send messages to this chat box, or you can digitally raise your hand so that our organizers will allow you to switch on your mic. So either way, it is open. So please raise your questions. So
Tilak,
first question.
I want to point out another thing. I wonder, I don't know to what extent it will be possible. If you can have some mentor system where you can connect engineering graduates with the industry engineer, so that he will be followed by the with the engineer in the industry, whatever the technical know-how and kind of thing he can get. I don't know to what extent that will be successful, but if you can do some kind of mentoring system introduced, it will be useful. I think there is my idea.
Okay, very good point. Another good point. Yes. So I'm going to this.
Tilak, can you allow me 1 minute?
Yes.
In fact,
yes,
in Peradeniya, we have this mentor system, and then we have given select one academic staff and then given about 45 students at the entry at the first year. And then until they pass out, I think any technical, any engineering or any personnel or any issue coming up with them, and then they can refer it to them. So this is the first stage of mentoring. So maybe at times it's not working very well, but I think but the system has been implemented
and then we can further.
And even during training, I think they are the mentoring them as well, and they go and supervise them also. Sometimes there may be some restrictions on that, but still we are practicing this.
Yeah, but Professor, I was referring somebody from the industry also, rather than in addition to the academic from the academic staff.
Can you also being in the industry
that,
and is it practical? This is the question, because the industry has so many issues, and so when about 50 students is maybe for a site, there will be about 50 students sometimes, various the following various courses. So I don't know if it is possible. Is it practical? Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to, if you allow me, I will go to questions because there are some questions coming through the chat box. So the first question raised by someone called I can't see here the name. So I'm third year undergraduate of University of Moratuwa. I am currently following industrial training program. Is there any recommend degrees or MBAs that required to climb the ladder of my engineering journey? Is there any recommendations? So I think he's talking about MBAs or any other postgraduate programs. Yes. What Dr. Vijay Kon, what can you answer to this question, please?
Mr. Right. What happened is now it's good that he has some career plan, I think. So, I mean, that we should encourage. That was mentioned by Prabodh as well. So, we should have some kind of career path development, and we have to draw. And then I suggest that you have to draw your plan to maybe for the age of 60 years sometimes till you retire. So it is very important that you to finish your undergraduate degree and then go to the industry and then practice engineering. Once you practice engineering, you will realize that this is my area. So if it's a civil engineering, for example, it's a water or building or maybe highways or whatever. And then I suggest that, or maybe you can go to some non-engineering organizations also now. There are a lot of engineers working in non-engineering practices are there. This is basically engineering practices, but for non-engineering organization, for example, Bank of Ceylon, I think they have recruited maybe few engineers. And so if you are going on that direction, or maybe if you want to be an entrepreneur, probably you can think of MBA. There are so many MBA programs, and also there are so many postgraduate engineering programs in all the universities now, Moratuwa, Peradeniya, everywhere. So what is important is you need to understand what is the best or the suitable engineering area to you. In order to get that, I think it might require at least 4 to 5 years for you. So after that only, otherwise, most of the people, when they immediately passed out from the universities, they go and do the masters. Unless they want to join the universities as a teacher or an academic, I think otherwise, my thinking is that if you are a person going to the industry, I think you must get at least 4 years of at least experience, and then only you know that this is the best field for me, and then think about masters. That is I don't know whether he is happy with that.
Okay, I can see from the audience that there are many experienced people and personalities, also academic people also join. I would like
Tilak,
to
I think
Tilak, yeah.
Tilak,
Yes,
this Dr. Jayanta Ranatunga has raised his hand. Probably he may be having some question or something.
Shamila, will you allow Dr.
For a
Jayanta
long time,
Singh?
yes.
Okay, I think can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Doctor.
yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. No, I just was listening to this because probably I have about over 60 years of engineering career so behind me. So I see a large spectrum of things happening over the years. You know, one thing I notice is the science and technology spectrum has got very wide now from our time to now. But at the same time, we must understand that there are people encroaching into engineering from top as well as from the bottom. The top, the science graduates are taking over the theoretical part of it. And from the bottom, these people like technology stream and all that are taking on the application part of it. So now the engineers are sandwiched in between. So how do they make a career out of that narrower, getting it narrower, but it is getting deeper. Although it's narrower, but it's very deep now, that area. So how can we do that? How can we get these people be productive and useful within that spectrum? My idea is this. Of course, we are very lucky in this country. We are getting the best, I would say arguably best grades into the engineering. So the input material is very good. So that is one good thing for us. And the second one is that they come with very good foundation. Fundamentals of physics, chemistry, and all that at the advanced level is very, very, very at a very high level. And when they come in, we have to get them to make use of it. How can we make use of those things? So what I feel is we should try to get them into learning mode rather than the teaching mode. You see, now, of course, a lot of people are saying this, less the teaching and bigger the learning is the area that we have to think. And it is happening in most of the developed countries now. In fact, I will tell you a very simple example. Now, a person I know, he has been told, design an air conditioning system for this room, the room. And he has been told a little bit about, of course, thermodynamics and the psychometric charts and nothing else. Now, this guy has to run around and look for standards, ASHRAE or whatever it is, and then ask people and how to find out how many people are coming into this one. Now he does a complete design of himself. Now see how good that is, because that brings in a lot of competence and confidence in that young chap. And he will be very happy at the end of it. He has done something useful. And you see what happened is this: we cannot, within this 4 years or whatever it is, we will never be able to learn everything that we would practicing in the next, 40 years or 50 years in his career, probably longer than that also. So how can you do that? We have to make them good learners, because give them the fundamentals and show them how the learning process, how to learn a new thing. Because what is important is how quickly they can learn a new technology, new thing, because there's no way we can teach everything that he is going to require in his career. And industry also should not expect that, because each one is different, and they can put this person very confidently and get them to learn these things. That's my view.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a very good opinion. I think if someone willing to answer, there is no, I think it's an opinion from Dr. Jayant. Thank you very much, matching with our topic. So someone called Tisara is asking, industry always try to get the maximum from us, or it's a rather complaint. But some companies does not allow to do educational things. Okay. He's asking, give us some solutions and career plan for civil engineers in the industry. So, would you like to answer this question? Because what he's trying to say that because of working load, they don't have a plan, something like that.
Have I got to answer?
Yes, Mr. Ranjit. Yes, yes.
I think the question is very reasonable.
Yeah.
The industry take these brilliant graduates to achieve their targets. And personally, I feel that at this time, industry is not paying these graduates for their values. It should be much higher what the industry, what personally paid for these engineering graduates, what we should pay is more. But the issue is once they come out from the universities academically, yes, 1 degree only changes is by little the second class or honorary degree. First class people are being considered separately only for the designs, so that there is especially young graduates feel it's work. But the proper engineers should enjoy that, provided they are paid a good perks, right? So I think prior to that, the question was whether they can parallelly do some academic, the postgraduate courses while being in the industry. Professor SB answered this very well. Of course, I very strongly say, once you pass out as a graduate, other than if they are not in the academic and the university career, for their first target should be know the industry, get your professional qualification, then think of doing an MBA or MSc or PhD. That's the best advice. And in, I don't want to make, but in our company, we discourage anyone doing MBA or MSc before the becoming a professionally qualified engineer.
Oh, right. Okay. Now, I think, Chamila, we have 2 questions to raise. 2 people have raised their hands. Chamila, shall we allow? And meantime, I request you to make it shorter when you're asking the question, because we have a very limited time. So please quickly raise your question very directly to the forum.
Can I speak on this matter? I'm
Yeah.
Fernando.
Mr. Fernando, yes.
Now, what we see, what I agree with Mr. Gunaratna. Is the name correct?
Mr. Gunatilaka, yes.
Gunatilaka.
Gunatilaka.
Yeah.
What happens is when these people get their degrees, they go for the MBA or MSc because the incentive is for them to get another allowance. You see, and this is happening in certain boards and corporations. So that should not be the way they should proceed. As was mentioned by Mr. Gunatilaka, Engineer Gunatilaka, they should do some more work in their organization, practice, and work for more than the responsible experience on which they got their PR, professional, they got their charter. So they must proceed on those lines and not be keen to get the MBA or MSc as soon as they pass their exams for the peak, for the incentive of getting an extra allowance. That should not be the idea. And I think the organization should also not permit such requests coming from them.
Yeah, that's another supportive opinion to Mr. Gunatilaka from Mr. Fernando. Thank you, Mr. Fernando. And then we have another question, please. Chamila?
Yeah. I think, Tilak, there are two members raising their hands. I
Yes,
don't know.
yes. There is another person raising their hand.
Susil Vijay Bandar can talk.
Yeah, Mr. Vijay Bandar, I think this is from SDNCC, right?
Now, I'm no more with SDNCC now.
Yeah, Mr. Vijay Bandar.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity given. Now, I just want to add something to what our eminent panel members said. That this most of the young engineers, they are lacking in the commitment and the taking responsibility. I think if they are committed and take the responsibility and perform, I think they can within 1 or 2 years they can learn all these soft skills. There's no other way that they can learn these soft skills, especially HR management. And within about after 2-3 years, they should be able to read the people, and they should be able to read the minds of the people whom with they are working and the members of their team. So when they are run away from work and all, they simply don't get that opportunity to learn on those aspects. And then another problem is actually they don't take part in this all the aspects in civil engineering practice. That is more importantly the quantity surveying part and the surveying. So they are very reluctant to carry out simple surveying work and leveling work, and also they simply sometimes wait the surveyors to come and teach them how to take the levels and the setting out works. So that should not be the way. And for example, now when I was at SDNCC, there were no surveys in SDNCC. All the civil engineers had to do leveling, setting out everything. But in most of the other organizations, they don't do this practice. So what I propose is to talk to the final year students by an eminent engineer, experienced engineers before they pass out from the university, and as Mr. Prabodh Jinesena proposed, to talk to them and give them some kind of idea what's happening in the industry. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay Mandara. And I think there is another question. Chamila?
Ananda Jayavira.
No, Professor Janardhan is there.
No, so Ananda Jayavira.
Oh, Jayavira. Oh, right, okay.
Okay, let me
Yes,
ask another question raised by someone. Is Prabodhi. What will happen to the graduates in technology faculties who have done engineering technology? So that's a direct question. I think if Dr. Vijay Kond can once again answer representing the academia. Yes.
No, I think I will give a background, but I will not have an answer for that. But anyway, now what happened is you need to get into the situation where why this technology stream came in. That is because over the years there have been studies conducted and then found that the technical the level when the technical colleges are not performing well, I think there's lacking I think there was a norm to say that in some of the developing countries that under one engineer there should be 8 technical officers, technical officers or something, and they say for country like us at least we should have 4. So but in the absence of these categories, I think what happened is the engineers were underemployed, and so in order to resolve the issue, I think this technology stream came in, and maybe some sort of politics also came with that, obviously. So then I think they will be fitting into that level, because this is although they do engineering technology, but they are not categorized as engineers. So in fact, in the accreditation, I think they are going to get accreditation under Sydney Accord, I believe. So that is a 3-year degree or something. So this is how I know. I think probably members, those who are in the maybe UGC standing committee, maybe best person to answer.
Yes. I think we are coming to the end of the program because we have a very limited time. I will pass the time that I promised to complete this. But I can allow for one another question who is willing to take their voice, raise their voice, his voice. So please, Chamila, is there anyone that...
Tilak, I think there are some chat messages. I think if you can go through them and then...
there are many chat messages, but...
right, okay.
Yeah, I will not be able to go through everything.
Okay,
but
okay.
Basically, I covered many of them, I believe. So with that, I think I will.
Tilak,
yes, sir. Mr. Ranjit, yes.
It's not a question.
Yeah.
But I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Institute of Engineers. And one highlight is how you interact with the industry, with our graduates. But one thing, maybe you know that I'm the president of Chamber of Construction Industry also, which is the apex representative body in the construction industry, which consists with architects, quantity surveyors, incorporated, no, they are not there, and valuers, and consulting engineers, structural engineers, all these people, institutions are members of the Chamber of Construction Industry. And I'm happy to hear today, the engineers are not limited to engineering, and some are accountants, some are in the field of HR, and I know there are some in the field, in the banking, and also in the legal sector, very few people. But there was some reason the Institute of Engineers has not joined the Chamber of Construction Industry up to date, whereas the Chamber was very much awaiting Institute of Engineers to join them, and we had some discussion letters. But that is a very good opportunity for the engineers to get interacted with the industry, right? And I personally feel this is a request. We have officially done this request to the Institute of Engineers. I think it's something very much worth looking at it, rather than at the moment only Institute of Engineers are out of this chamber.
I
Okay.
think Mr. Prabodh Jinasena, Engineer Prabodh Jinasena, being a council member, can take this message to the council. Huh? So,
Yes, of course, we'll take it to the council. And
yes,
one thing, Tilak,
definitely.
the industry is willing to help the universities. There are so many engineers who would like to volunteer and help university students. I mean, in their industrial training or in their knowledge about the industry. So you must make a link, industry and university. The link should be strengthened, I guess, so that we can work on it and make it active.
Yeah, I think with that message, yes.
Yes, I think the same message I can mention related with our telco industry as well. So we are willing to provide the support for the universities because we need anyway we basically 90% from the local universities. So the local university systems need to be get support of this industry people. So actually, most of the people are willing to support the universities to develop these courses. So better actually this discussion is very good. And as well, if the universities can provide some certain program to support, get support from industry, like Engineer Prabodha mentioned. So many people are there in industry to support that.
Yes, I think this IESL can take part in mediating to establish this link between universities and industry by arranging a lot of programs and as well as this industry of Chamber of Commerce also. So with
Yeah,
that,
can I add something?
Yes,
Now,
Doctor.
I think the link is already there. I think that
Yes.
has been there for the last 20, 25 years. That
But to
is
make
the Industry University Relation Committee. But if it
Yes.
is inactive, that has to be make it active.
make it
So I
active.
think we should not invent the wheel. So
Yes.
the wheel is already there. I mean, repair the wheel and then run the show. That is what my advice.
Okay. Okay. I think very good couple of messages as well as opinions as well as progressive ideas came today with this discussion. So this whole effort is to improve the industry and to have a better future and not to blame anyone or not to find out gaps and just leave it alone. So I think we have had a good discussion today with regard to young engineers as well as university curriculum. With that, let me wind up the session. So thank you very much all panel members who dedicated today for this session and joined with us on behalf of IESL and on behalf of Library and Publication Committee. I must thank you everyone for giving such a wonderful ideas and wonderful information with regard to better solutions for engineering industry. And let me thank also Library and Publication Committee Chairman, Professor Ranjit Disanayak and members who supported me to arrange this program, as well as IESL management and media manager Chamila, who played a big role behind, and then all panel members as well as participants. Thank you very much for giving the support. See you again with another panel discussion, and good night for everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.